Hi, I'm gonna show you how I build my wings on the bottom of my dentures. So I just did my tops. It actually lasted 5 months this time, which is the longest I've ever had it lasted. And I was pretty pleased with it, but I want to show you my bottom dentures. They're clean. I already put the primer in them. Do exactly how they show in the videos to start. So you could see, sorry, my hands shake, that my dentures, my bottoms are almost flat. Let's see if I can they're almost flat. I have no cup in them, so they just float around in the back of my mouth. My dentist said, oh well, just get some implants. I can't afford implants. Anyhow, you can see that there's really no trough. So I'm going to put the first tube in the way that DenSureFit shows you. And then I will be back to show you what I do after. It's really important that you clean your dentures with Dawn dish soap, like they say, especially if you're a smoker like me. Nicotine makes an oily product in your mouth, so before I start doing either top or bottom, I brush my teeth or my gums really well, and then I disinfect my mouth with disinfecting mouthwash twice. And I don't smoke until I'm totally done because of the nicotine it gets in there. You don't get the bond, and really it starts falling out quicker. I've been in a hurry where I did not clean twice with the Dawn dish soap before I put the primer in. I just wanted to stop and say it's really important. I've heard people say that sometimes they get mold growing in their DentureFit silicone. I have to wonder if it's from lack of cleaning them so well before you start this. And also, before I put on the primer, I take a Q-tip and I rub alcohol on my plate, and then I take a dry Q-tip and I dry it off really good. Disinfect my mouth. I want to be sure everything is super clean because I think that is really important. I've been using this product, I want to say 3 years now, maybe a little longer. But I'm going to put the first tube of DentureFit, just like they show, around my trough. I'm going to put it in my bottom mouth. I'm going to really barely lightly bite into the top, which I just got done putting my new DentureFit in the top. I don't really bite. I just touch them together a little firmly. Something I do that I will explain before I put on the next coat is that when I do my second coating, in fact, in my top, I have 3.5 tubes in my top. That's how bad my dentures are. When I put them in there and kind of snug them up with that last, because you do 1 tube at a time, I always rub along here, and that gets anything that's running out, it smooths it down so it doesn't make your lips stick out. Same on the bottoms. If I don't smooth it down, it's really uncomfortable when I eat, and it leaves a really big ledge down there that food gets trapped under. So when I put this in my mouth, my bottom plate, while my mouth is shut, I am running my tongue back and forth around the inside. I mean, not really fast, but I slide it back and forth around the inside, and I sit and go around that on the outside. I'll show you before I hit pause. Just a second here. Alright, I'm going to have a hard time doing this while my timer, not turning my timer on. Anyhow, so again, they're raw. I'm going to take my first DenSureFit. It's hard to do this while you're recording. Anyhow, I put a nice big strip right down the middle the first time. And I kind of come back I don't know about you guys, but my denture is very wide, wider than my jaw is. Anyhow, I go back around with the little bead. And I'll let you see my bead here in a minute. Alright, so you can see the first time I went around the middle, nice fat one. See the middle trough, nice fat. And then I went around the edges of it with a real thin one, used one whole tube. My 4 minutes is up. I haven't taken them out yet because I wanted to show you. Anybody that has really flat, no ridge, has to experience what I experienced. They just have to. So when you put the DenSureFit in your trough, and because your dentures are flat and there's nothing to hold the product in, the product comes out underneath your teeth, especially if you bite too hard while it's very wet. And then it runs up the sides of your plate, and it drives me insane. So I have a handy dandy Exact knife. This is tube 1, and as you can see, when I put it in there, I start running my tongue back and forth along this ridge. And I do that because then these little wings start developing. It's very hard for me to get that in there. See that little point? Alright, so that's off the side, inside of my plate, and there's one that is just starting to develop on this side. And the sad part is if I don't run my tongue like that, I get a really bad, there's a buildup right here. It's hard to see. See all that buildup, or the extra product pushes out right there. If I don't run my tongue around, I get a lump right here. And that hurts your tongue. Hurts your tongue. And as you can see, the DenSureFit has ran up the side of my denture. See all that? And it's going to come loose no matter what I do. You might as well push it, because there was no primer there, so it's not going to stick. So I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and I'm going to cut that along that ridge right there. I'm going to cut it kind of low, even though it's not attached. Then I'm going to run very hot water on my dentures, and I'm going to dry them really good. And then the next, I'll come back and I'm going to take another tube. I'm going to just run, when I come back with another tube, I'm only going to put a bead along here, and I'm going to be very careful not to get much in here. So I'm going to run a bead along here, and even though this wing is here, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to add a bead all the way to about here. What I'm going to be hoping for is that I get enough in between these two that this new bead hooks onto this little flapper on here. That's the inside of my denture plate. The inside of my denture plate. I'll do it again. So this inside, I am going to run another small bead right along here to about there. I'm going to try not to get too much on this little flapper that's already here. I'm going to use that for a really great guide. And then I'm going to run a really small bead up to about here. You don't want to get too much in here, because like I said, that will build up too much of a bead that it hurts your bottom of your tongue. Then I'm going to come down again this side. This is the inside, and I'm going to run a nice bead along here. And then when I stick it in my mouth, I'm also going to run a bead along the outside ridge, because you can see where I didn't get any DenSureFit on here. And if I don't, that will cut into, it's long and it cuts right down into my bone here. So I'm going to go down each side. I'm going to run along this outside also, because if you turn it just right, you see there's no product right there. I want product, a little tiny bit of product along this ridge on the outside, both outsides. Because if I don't, they hurt, because they dig down in here. They're really long and they dig down in there. So I put the DenSureFit on there also. So again, this is the inside ridge, and I'm hoping I can show you better than explain it. But first I'm going to turn off my camera and I'm going to get this big, all this product right here. I'm going to cut it off with my X-Acto knife, and I'm going to cut it really close so that when I go around with my new bead, it'll seal up that ridge right there. And I do put more primer on along that after I get done washing them or rinsing them off really good, drying them off really good. I put a little more primer on there because I want it to adhere to that plastic. So I will be back in just a moment. Okay, I use my X-Acto knife, and if you could see, I cut all that was build up from that first application. I cut all that off with the X-Acto knife, and I cut it right along this. And it's easier like to pull the silicone and then just kind of push the knife onto it so it doesn't leave sharp ridges. Now there's still a little bit, you see the little bumps in it, those actually hurt your mouth. See that little tag right there? All right, I'm going to go through here and I'm going to put more primer on along this edge because I want the next batch to stick where I just cut this one off. Okay, while I wait the 2 minutes for the primer to set up, because I just put more primer along this where it didn't get all the way out to the edge. And then up here, it's really hard to see, but nothing touched, no silicone stuck on that. And these little wing-like things on my teeth, they're really wide, wider than my mouth is. So I have to fill the gappage up with the silicone. So when I get done, it'll almost be flat right there, right here. I'll almost have a flat ridge built from here all the way over to this edge of silicone. So I had to put more primer on there because that's raw. That's my denture. There's no silicone stuck there or along here. Oh, I almost had it to where you can see it right there. You see it right there in the camera. See where the silicone didn't come out to the edge of the denture. And I need the edge of that denture wrapped in silicone because these things, I don't know what you call this, but my teeth are too wide and they come way out, and if I don't fill them up and cover that plastic of the denture, when I chew, it cuts up and down in here. It cuts me. So I wrap it in the silicone when I make my wings so that it doesn't ride up and down in there on just the denture. The silicone keeps me protected from the denture. So I'm also going to, this is where I'm going to take another tube of DenSureFit, and I'm going to go along. I'm going to put a really nice even bead along right through here and then back down, and ultimately I'm going to have a wing like this all the way down here and all the way down here. And I do that again by rubbing here and making sure nothing gums up or goobers up through here, because then it makes my face poke out, and it also is a food catch. So I kind of rub it here, but at the same time I'm constantly doing like that with my tongue inside there, and that's what makes these thin and wings come down. And then when I put my dentures in, they can't slide side to side as much because those wings are there and they make a little bit of suction where I don't have any suction because I got a flat ridge. This is why I buy extra tips in every order. I always order minimally 3 extra tips. I always order at least 1 extra primer, so I can build these wings. I know that I'm not doing this the way DenSureFit says to do it. I am following, you know, how they tell you to put your first, well, when they tell you how to do it. I do that exactly like the videos, but then I come back with this step. It costs me a little more because I go through, you know, almost a tube more of the silicone, but I do the top exactly like they say, and I use 3.5 tubes to keep my top teeth in. Before I do this, I have 3.5 tubes of silicone in there to fill up. You see it all the way around the top of my dentures to fill up my teeth. When I don't have anything in there, my gums don't touch anywhere inside my dentures. The only thing that touches is the top of this ridge touches way up here, and so if I don't have this in here, when I bite down, it rams my dentures up into these bones when I eat. I fill it up with DenSureFit. That don't happen. I do have to pull my lips around like that to get a suction, even with the silicone. I paid $12,000 for these wonderful teeth. And the dentist told me, sorry, we can't do anything more for you. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do my little wings. I'm going to do it, and I can't talk once I start doing it. So I will be right back. The biggest thing is getting them in my mouth with all this on here without getting it all over my face or pulling it out of where I want it. So, okay. Snap my tube. I'm hoping to be able to get this in the video well. Okay. I gotta go back around here because this is where I told you it didn't get on. So I gotta put a little bit more around this ridge. And this is where I'm going to start. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. Fill that in. See how I filled that wing in? I don't want to put too much on there, because too much is just as hard. So I'm putting real light, just a little bit. Right here, you gotta be real careful. Coming back around with a really skinny bead right on that. Alright, let me see if I can show you what I just did. See how I'm going to have to get this in my mouth real quick. Okay, I pulled them out. I've rinsed them off really good. I dry them real gentle. So that's my inside wing right there. It's a nice start. I will take the X-Acto knife. I'm going to trim that point right there. See the point? I'm going to trim that point off with the X-Acto knife to make it smooth. That wing is a little longer than I like. And you can see I got a little dent right there without anything in it. You see that one right there, started. So the center here is a little thicker than I like. I'm probably going to leave that alone because it's not too bad. Come up here a little bit. I'm going to feel that, see if it bugs the bottom of my tongue. That doesn't bother me, so I'm going to leave it alone because it's probably got a pretty good bond. So I'll leave that alone. In a couple of days, if I find it's bothering me, then I will come back and cut it off. Over here feels absolutely wonderful. As you can see, when I was telling you before that, I don't know if you can see how wide this side outside is. All of that is DenSureFit because my bottom ridge should probably come over here in the plastic of the denture. Instead it comes way out here. So the DenSureFit fills in that huge, you can almost see it right there, that huge gap. And because instead of making these up and down, for some reason both sides, they made them go out like that, and they stick out right here. And food, and it's just very uncomfortable. It digs down into my cheeks. So I made sure that when I put more DenSureFit on, it came over. See how it came over the plastic? And yeah, it's a little wide, but it keeps it from ramming down into my cheekbone. Because that's, my denture is what's flaring out that way. That's a perfect shot. See how far they flare out? And if I don't put this on there, it eats my mouth up. And I don't know if you can see, yeah, you can see perfectly. My denture should have ended right over here. Instead, they ended it way over there. And I fill this up with DenSureFit. If I don't, I can't bite. So, see, I've made myself a little trough. And you can see the trough over there. My teeth didn't have that trough. That's what I do. DenSureFit. Alright, I'm going to cut this down a little bit with an X-Acto knife. It's a little higher than I like. It hangs underneath my tongue. Kind of gaggy. I'm going to cut it down, and then I'm going to put on a new tip, because I still have about a half a tube left in this tube that I use. I'm going to put on a new tip, and I'm going to come back in. I'm going to put a little bit in here, and I'm going to make this more round and smooth over to that. There, I'm not going to do anything with that, because you really don't want to get too much right here. That's almost too much. What the problem is, see how it's built up high? Goes underneath my tongue too much. So I'm going to be very careful when I come back with this next one not to get any from here over to there. But you can see how I have that little gap right there on the wing. Try to get it to where you can see it. I'm going to fill that in. Make that wing come out a little bit more on that one. Alright, so on this wing, I did cut a little bit off there. It was a little too long. And I kind of smoothed it out. So this is the inside of my ridge. And it's got that little dent right there. I'm going to put another little drop. I want it smooth there. Then I want to come over here. I want to make this wing a little bit bigger. Mostly fill in. There we go. Mostly I'm going to fill that in. And I'm not going to do it very thick because I want to rub my tongue on that. I want to bring it down to where it ends really thin. The thinner it ends, the better it feels on the inside because it gets way down in there under your tongue. And you don't want it lumped up. So I got to change my tip. One thing I learned about changing my tip that people should know, it's very helpful. When I take off this tip, I'm going to wipe this off. I'll show you and put a new tip on. If you don't, it doesn't flow smooth, and that's why people say the tube's wasted. The tube is not wasted. There's a half tube here. This is all solid. See, it's solid in there. There's still usable product in here. You just gotta get rid of this tip. So we're gonna take off the tip. We're gonna take paper towel. I am going to wipe that off. Nice and smooth. Wipe it off. Put a new tip on. Alright, here we go. And before I put it on there, I'm going to get a hold of my denture. The way I'm going to need it to go back in my mouth. So, it's a little thick. Fell down to the inside a little bit. This one's more just smooth it over than anything. This one needs a nice little dauber in there to fill that up. Because you can kind of move this one this way. So when I put this in my mouth, I'm going to wait a minute and then I'm going to start rubbing my tongue. And as thin as I have this little bead on here right now, I should get a nice, perfect wing. See, I'm going over this side, needed a little more because the wing was barely there on that side. So I put another, you can go back and forth with this stuff and build it. I'm going to be very careful how quickly I start wiggling my tongue. I'm probably going to wait about a minute and a half before I start doing it. Because you don't want it spread all over. When I come back, I'm going to have to cut that off. 4 minutes. Turned out beautiful today. I'm happy. So this is the side that barely had a wing. I'm trying to get to where I can show you it. Yeah, it's hard to see. Here's a good shot of it. Alright, and then this side was the big side that I filled in. Very nice wing on that side. This one's a little short, but I'm going to live with that. What I am going to do is that knob right there, I'm going to cut that off. It's hard to see. It's not a huge dab, it's bent sideways. So I'm going to cut that off with my X-Acto knife. I'm going to come in there and I'm going to cut that off. I'm going to be very careful of that because I don't want to break the seal with the teeth. So I'm going to cut those two off. Alright. I use always a brand new X-Acto blade. Because just a second, I missed a little piece right there. Whoops. Right there. Alright, sorry about that. I missed a little bit, and it was this right here had ran up onto my teeth. So I kind of trimmed it down. You gotta be careful when you cut with X-Acto knife. I kind of pull it real light and I run the knife along and it cuts it. I always use a brand new blade for that reason. So one, it's sterile, and two, it cuts it real easy. So you can see I still got a little bit much right there. I will leave that alone for a day or two. If it bugs me, I will take a new X-Acto knife and kind of round it out. And when you cut it, you should always cut from the outside in towards the denture so that it kind of makes the cut that way, and that way your tongue doesn't rub on it. But that is my wings. And as you can see from that view right there, I now have a trough. And here I now have a trough where my dentures end way in here. they don't wrap around my bottom gum at all. And they told me that's because I don't have bottom gum, it's flat. No. Anyhow. And as you can see in here, I don't really build a wing. I don't need a wing whatsoever because these are way too long. What I do need though is that has to be covered in that product, because otherwise that digs right in here.